Coming up, the playoffs are here, and we've got the information to get you ready. We're going to look at last week and get you set up for this week's games on the high school gridiron.
Last week we checked out the Player of the Year candidates in North Dakota. This week it's South Dakota's turn. We'll give you a look at the top players to watch.
All that plus a look at volleyball and our picks for some of this week's biggest postseason games, all just ahead on Varsity Sports. And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside the Jason and Dara. I am Jay Elson. Well, Jason, you blink and the next thing you know, you're in playoff mode.
Well, exactly. So many teams right now with their season on the line. We will get you set up. We'll prep you for prep football as we head out to the playoffs.
All right, well, with that, let's waste no more time. Get into an abbreviated weekly rewind. West Fargo sealed an undefeated season with a 42-7 romp over Devil's Lake. They now get ready to host Legacy on Friday night.
Fargo South and Davies matched up for a do-or-die scenario for the Eagles. South quarterback Jack Pfeiffer threw for 310 yards to secure his team a playoff spot while they eliminate the Eagles.
West Fargo Cheyenne won their fourth in a row, beating Grand Forks Central 40-6. Jason Gullrapp racked up 168 yards and 2 scores. The Mustangs came all the way back to earn a 2 seed and a home game against the Bismarck Demons.
Very nice. Minot beat Dickinson 42-13 last Wednesday. They got 172 yards of rushing out of Manny Bradford. That gave them the top spot in the West, and now they get to host Grand Forks Red River.
Century used a big day from their fullback Philip Davies, who ran for 203 yards and 4 touchdowns to beat Williston 48-14. That win gives them a home playoff game. They'll take on Fargo South on Friday.
And Bismarck ended Mandan's winning streak last week by the score of 69-25. Their big guy Lucas Butts turned in another huge day, 157 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, and the Demons always dangerous this time of year.
Yeah, they are. And in Class AA, Shanley needed a win to secure the top seed in the East, and that's exactly what they got. The Deacons played strong defense to win 28-8, which earns them the top spot and a home game against Watford City in the quarterfinals. Speaking of those quarterfinals, let's take a closer look at the brackets now. Let's start in AAA, though. And, Jason, you see the matchups here. Which one intrigues you the most?
Well, I think the Mustangs hosting a playoff game against Bismarck is very interesting. Here's what Coach Mark Gibson had to say about getting ready for the playoffs and visiting Cheyenne.
We told our kids that we got to get playoff ready, and we didn't feel like we're like that going to the Century game, and thought tonight we clicked on all cylinders and had a great win. And, we're a little banged up. The one nice thing is now you got a few days to get healthy and rejuvenate the batteries and make a run.
All right, let's move to AA now, and here's a look at your matchup. Which one of these games sticks out to you, Jason?
Well, Kindred has to travel to Beulah. This is the 4th and 3rd ranked teams in the class, have to play right away in the quarterfinals. Just 3 losses between these two teams. Both teams love to run the ball. Mikey Morris leading the way for the Miners, while you've got Ethan Lingen and company who have been getting it done for Kindred. A very senior-heavy team for Kindred. And they remind me a little bit of this Miners team last year that kind of, eked their way all the way to a state title. So a fun one to watch right away off the bat.
Class A gets to their quarters on Saturday. These top 4 seeds got to sit and watch last week, but which of these home teams do you think is the most danger of maybe losing?
I think there's a couple that have to be on guard right now. I think Northern Cass immediately, because they have to host the number 2 team in Langdon. That's a tough task right off the bat. And then you've got Delax Burlington. They have a tough matchup with Velva Sawyer. Now, the Aggies coming off their best game of the year. They've just beat Killdeer. And I think there could be maybe some multiple road wins in this round of the playoffs.
The 9-man ranks, of course, already been going at it for over a week. Which is the closest game coming up on Saturday, do you think?
Shiloh Christian. They barely slipped by Wyndmere Lidgerwood last week, and now they face Hankinson out of that same region. It's going to be a tough task for them. Shiloh has played really well, but they really haven't seen a physical team like Hankinson in a while. That's one to watch.
A lot of people going to be paying attention to that, just seeing if Shiloh Christian can take that next step.
I think they are close, so they've got a really tough hurdle or two before they get there.
All right, well, the North Dakota playoffs shaping up to be very interesting. When we come back, a quick recap of last week's South Dakota action, as well as a peek ahead to the first round of the postseason.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. Just took a look at North Dakota the week that was, and now we'll peek ahead into the postseason. We're going to do the same right now for South Dakota. Here's a quick recap of last Thursday's action on the gridiron in the Rushmore State. Roosevelt and Washington played a championship quality game in a battle of unbeatens. Torrin Deverick set a school record for attempts, completions, and yards in a game, going 37 of 57 for 402 yards. But it wasn't enough as backup quarterback Seth Benson and sophomore running back Tupac Capella led the Warriors to a 35-28 win. Washington now enters the playoffs with the number 1 seed.
It feels just fun, just knowing I could help them out in that way. Just the new season in the playoffs. You got a new season, anything can happen. You just got to grind every day at practice and get ready for the next one.
Lincoln ended their 4-game losing streak by beating O'Gorman last Thursday 31-28. Patriots got 2 touchdowns from Eric Luby and held on at the end of the game to seal the win that also sent them into the playoffs.
We had to take a playoff mentality coming into this game because that's really what it was. It essentially decide if we got in or not, or if we needed help to get in. And for them to beat a quality opponent going into playoff time is, I think now we become a little bit more relevant in terms of the run to the state championship.
Good for the Patriots after what's been a rough few weeks. All right, well, neither Rapid City team had secured a playoff spot going into their game last Thursday, but the back-and-forth battle saw both starting quarterbacks exit due to injury. It was the Cobblers who outlasted the Raiders for a 26-23 win in the final seconds.
They're really starting to get things going. The good things are happening for them. The plays are happening. The ball security, we cleaned up some penalties. But the biggest thing is just always play hard and play with heart.
All right, well, with that, let's see what lies ahead in each class for the playoff pairings at 11 AAA. Are there any potential upsets?
Well, AAA first round, you kind of know what you get. I don't really see any. The big news, though, quarterbacks going down to injury. Hunter Thompson didn't play last week for O'Gorman. Jaden Johansson for Washington didn't play last week. Both backups did a strong job. And then you've also got 2 Rapid City quarterbacks who were injured during the game. We don't know their status coming up here on out, and it's kind of bad when a guy with a torn ACL is one of the healthier quarterbacks in the class with Preston Eisenbrun. So quarterbacks, definitely the topic of conversation in AAA. Upsets, I don't think is one of those questions.
All right, well, at 11 AA, we see a few interesting matchups here. Which one interests you?
Well, I think the 4-5 and the 3-6 matchups both could be very competitive. Douglas has shown that they can play with some good teams. Pierre is one of those good teams. This will be interesting. But the game I'm really looking forward to, Huron at Spearfish, could be very interesting. Again, a quarterback injury, one of the headlines. Huron starting quarterback Highland Hines is out. Sophomore Jet McGurr gets the call. And we caught up with their coach, Michael Schmitz, and asked him what the focus is on as they prepare for Spearfish.
They run the ball really well. They're physical up front. On defense, they kind of pack the box and make you earn it. And they're really a physical team. I think we beat them 26-20 the last time we played them. So definitely not a blowout by any means. They're a tough team, and we have to go all the way out there. And it always is tough once you cross that river.
All right, well, that should be a good one. Let's move on to Class 11A now, where there are 2 unbeaten teams at the top and the defending champs right behind them. Let's break down this slate.
You're right. Those guys are definitely the headliners. T-Area, St. Thomas More, and Madison. All 3 of those teams, the opponents that they face in the quarterfinals, have already beaten that team by at least 3 touchdowns. So if they play well, they should take care of business. But that 4-5 matchup, Sioux Falls Christian and Dell Rapids, I think that's anyone's guess. Hunter Hansen, Seth Anderson have been doing some big damage for Dell Rapids, while on the other side, Sawyer Prince and that passing attack of the Chargers have been surprising to this point, and they get the home field advantage in this one. So I really expect chalk in the top 3 and an excellent game in that 4-5 matchup.
All right, let's take a quick look at the 4 classes who just got through first-round action last night, and we're going to start in Class 11B. Is there anyone even close to winner? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer.
Well, let's consider this. Parkston last week beat the number 2 team in the class, previously unbeaten Groton, by a healthy margin. And then last night, winner goes out and beats Parkston 52-0. I think that says something for the Warriors. I mean, give Bridgewater Emory Ethan some props. They did beat Chamberlain 53-0 last night on Tuesday. But this Winter Warrior team just steamrolling right now.
Yeah, they are. All right, well, how about 9AA? A lot of great teams in this class. How do you stack up each team's chances here?
Oh, this is going to be the most fun class. You've got Webster, Baltic, Canastota, Woolsey, Wessington, Gregory, and now MVP all in the conversation for a championship. I can't remember the last time we've had so many teams with a realistic shot of running the table.
That does make it a little more fun, let's be honest, because there's no comparison, bad loss to bad loss or anything like that.
Any one of those teams wouldn't shock me.
Absolutely. All right, in 9A, you've got Warner and Potter County, who are unbeaten, with Sully Buttes right there in the mix.
Yeah, exactly. This is a class where you really have to be careful. There could be some upsets coming up in this next round. You got Scotland, Coleman Egan, all solid teams. Even Gayville Vollen has been good. I think the favorites are not a huge favorite in this class. Wouldn't be shocked. I do like Warner, but anything could happen in this one.
Let's wrap it up with a look at 9B.
Corsica Stickney right now seems to really have some of those breakout playmakers that you need to make it to the Dome. You've got Clayton Menning, who's run circles around his opponents, and then you got Cordell Menning, who just runs right over his opponents. So an excellent team to watch out there, but watch out, Harding County, a lot of experience back here with their quarterback, Scott Podzemic and Jarrett Jensen, maybe the best 1-2 combination in all of 9-man football, but you got to consider Langford area. I mean, this is a team that's getting healthy right now. Lincoln Gibbs is back and playing as well as he has last year, so they're going to have something to say. They have their makeup game coming up tonight to see if they advance to the next round. I have a feeling they would do just
I'm
that.
pretty sure they're going to do that. Yeah, all right. Well, last week we looked at North Dakota. This week we're going to take a closer look at that short list of players who are going to be making a case for Player of the Year. Keep it right here. Only a few games remain, and only a few players have made the case to be considered for Varsity Sports Player of the Year. We want to give you a quick glimpse of some of the guys who have played their way into that conversation. So we're going to go class by class here from South Dakota, give you those names right now, and let's start in Class 11 AAA.
Short list. You got to talk about the top teams right now and their quarterbacks. Torrin Devricks, only 5 interceptions on the year, setting school records in a school that it's hard to set school records. A lot of great quarterbacks. He's in the conversation. Nate Barnes taking touchdowns up the field. But then on the Washington side, the team to beat, their quarterback, Jaden Johansson, and even Tupac Capet has worked his way into this one. Hunter Thompson has got to be talked about, and Caden Servier for what he's doing on defense for Brandon Valley is keeping them alive.
In 11AA, a few names really stick out, like Spencer Negebauer and his 32 touchdowns.
Yeah, this one, if Spencer Negebauer rolls into the playoffs the way he's been rolling, is probably your Player of the Year, but don't sleep on Jack Anderson and Branson Taylor, a couple of their running backs. And then the quarterback that's really stood out is Highland Hines. He is hurt going forward. It's going to be hard for him to win that award, but a spectacular season nonetheless for Hines.
Done enough to be in the conversation, at least at this point. In Class 11A, every week we seem to read a couple of these names on our honor roll, and here they are again.
Yeah, same guys. Josh Giles, Mason Layton. I think we read about these guys every week in the box scores. Giles has been unbelievably accurate this year and has really filled some big shoes at quarterback in a huge way. But you talk about quarterbacks, you have to talk about Peyton Conrad. This guy has put his team on his shoulders as a senior, and he's got to be talked about. And what about Preston Arity putting up huge numbers for St. Thomas More? So this is a quarterback's class.
Preston Arity doesn't get the same kind of exposure out west as some of these guys on the east side of the river as well. In Class 11B, Crockett Kurlikowski won this award last year. He's got to be in the running again, right? I mean,
their entire defense for winner is in the running here. Drew Demers on offense, Caleb Brozick, Cameron Kyle. All these guys have to be talked about, and only one of them will get the award, but it could be a team award. But don't forget about Bennett Shabazz, too, with Groton. He's done a great job.
Big reason the Tigers are where they're at. All right, let's move to 9-man now. Start with 9AA.
Well, Caden Wolf has been running the ball with a vengeance for Baltic, the reason that they're undefeated, but Chase Corton, Jade Vanderwerf, the defensive specialist out of Gregor, who also runs the ball. Darian Ogunjin-Malusi putting up huge numbers for Wolsey Wessington. And what about Canastota Scott Jolly? He's in the conversation as well.
All right, Class 9A.
Well, you've got Dalton Kinsley putting up monster numbers for Phillip, but Tate Gale throwing the ball for Irene Wakanda. The best team in the class, Potter County, has Tanner Storer running the ball for them, and Micah Hayline quarterbacking a very good Warner team. Has to be talked about.
A lot of big players in 9B as well.
Always a fun class. Sam Podzemic is getting huge recognitions for the totals he's putting together, but what about Chance Olson? Keeping Langford on the tracks all season long. Clayton Menning leading his team to an undefeated mark to this point in the season. And don't forget about Lincoln Gibbs. I know he hasn't played as many games, but he could be the one that leads into a title.
He's an example of a guy who could win this award in the postseason. Because if he gets rolling, boy, there's not a lot better than him. I'll say that. Sure. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to move into volleyball. I'll give you one last look at power rankings before we wrap up the regular season after this. Thanks to a rowdy group of fans in Harrisburg for that. All right, let's talk volleyball now. The number one team from Harrisburg ended their season with a roar. They reeled off their 12th straight win in a match with Mitchell on Tuesday. They took it in 3 sets, 25-22, 25-13, and 25-15. A dominant performance once again.
One thing I noticed is they played relatively error-free on Tuesday night, and when they cut down on their errors, they are virtually unbeatable. Rachel Nelson, Madison Wassing, Avery Thorson all had big nights to go with. Their big hitters, Sam Slaughter, McKenna Mathieson, and of course Carly Fixie. This lineup right now is rolling in the right direction. They've got only 2 seniors on this roster. They're just playing so smart right now. Give credit to their coach, Ronette Costain, though. She has really gotten this team on the right track, peaking at the right time. My number one team, no doubt.
Well, and you look at the power rankings, I mean, they're 19-1. Roosevelt's at number 2 at 19-9, and that's a team that's obviously very talented. That's just the kind of degree of separation we're talking about.
Yeah, you have to watch out, though. Look at the difference in number of games. Roosevelt goes out and plays a lot of tournaments against some really good competition, so 6 of those losses coming to Minnesota teams. So Roosevelt, yes, definitely in the mix. Big win on Tuesday to move to 5 wins in a row. That is a nice total for Roosevelt. Stevens just dropped 1 against 4 games with 4 Sioux Falls teams over the weekend. Just lost the 1, so they're right in the mix. Mitchell, a little bit of a skid, but all the losses they've had have been to elite teams this month. And then Huron moves back into that number 5 spot. O'Gorman just a tick off right now, and Washington playing excellent ball as they move in to the playoffs. Watch out for them. And even Watertown, a team that's given some teams problems. Mm-hmm. You know, they've got a losing record by a lot, but they could cause some problems too. They've been taking teams to 4 and 5 sets.
All right, well, in North Dakota, just a couple of matches left up there before their postseason gets underway.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the power rankings with just less than a week left to play in North Dakota. And Bismarck Century, again, just the 2 set losses on the year, 2 losses overall, both of those coming in tournaments. They are rolling right now. Bismarck Legacy, they bounced back with 3 conference wins after those losses last week to Jamestown and Century. They're looking pretty good. Grand Forks Red River, despite the loss on Tuesday to Shanley, still stays in my number 3 spot because overall just 2 losses in conference, just 1 at home. You got to give them some credit. Shanley with that big win on the road against Red River stays in the top 5. And then Jamestown moves into the top 5. Nice win for them. They're 9-3 in conference, haven't been ranked all year, and I think they're hitting their stride at the right time too. So watch out for those Blue Jays.
That's what every coach wants, right? When playing their best at the end. All right, well, stay tuned. We're going to up the fun in just a minute. Jason and I are going to make our picks for some of this week's postseason matchups and regular season volleyball after this.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Well, the postseason is literally where the winners and losers separate themselves, Jason. There is no different here on Varsity Sports as we commence the push toward the championship in our Pick'em segment.
This used to be my favorite segment.
Hasn't gone so well for you. I mean, you started strong.
Okay.
But I rallied late, and so, yeah. So I've got the lead by 3 coming into the postseason, but things can change in a hurry, as you have found out time and time again. Let's start in volleyball, though, up north in North Dakota. Davies at West Fargo on Thursday.
You know, this Davies team has the potential to beat anybody. I know West Fargo's playing well lately, but I think the Eagles get it done in the EDC finale.
West Fargo is playing well.
They
Funny you should mention that. They've won 7 of 9, and all 3 of the matches that they played at home in that span, they're at home this time. Give me the Packers. All right, North Dakota football now. Bismarck at Cheyenne. You talked about being excited for this match.
You know, I am. Bismarck is going to be really a little bit surprised to handle a team like Cheyenne because they give you so many different looks. But if anybody can handle it, Coach Mark Gibson and his staff can. it's going to be so tough to stop Lucas Butts, especially when you have Will Madler throwing the ball. I like the balance on Bismarck that Cheyenne doesn't quite have that balance.
All right, look, Cheyenne's 1-4 in a row, but we have to consider the opponents here. Two of the teams in that stretch aren't even in the playoffs. That's Fargo North and Grand Forks Central. Grand Forks Red River is in, but they're 4-5. The Demons, meanwhile, have won 4 of 5, including a win over Minot and a 1-score loss to Century. That's enough for me. I go Bismarck in this game. Probably one of the best games coming up Thursday night in South Dakota, maybe the best game. Del Rapids at Sioux Falls Christian.
You know, the Warriors playing excellent football right now. They beat a couple of really good teams down the stretch, including Dakota Valley, Tri-Valley, some really quality wins. I think the Warriors are a little bit more physical. Sioux Falls Christian has the home field advantage, but I still give the little bit of an edge to the Warriors. It'll be a good one.
Del Rapids, to me, feels like a quiet 7-2. There's not been a lot of conversation
they
about
lost
them.
Early on.
Yeah, but those losses are to Madison and T area. They do lack a signature win, but they've got a couple of good wins over Millbank. You mentioned Dakota Valley. I don't see that with the Chargers. And so even though the game's on the road, I still like Del Rapids as well. All right, finally, Huron at Spearfish. This matchup more interesting because of the situation for the Tigers at quarterback.
Yeah, new quarterback, Jet McGirt, coming in for Huron to try to stabilize things. He really does know the offense well. It's just those game reps that he doesn't have. And last time they visited Spearfish, they really ran into a physical team, and Boys Howard ran the ball hard at them. I think Spearfish can do it just because they have the home field advantage and they don't have to deal with Highland Hines.
Yeah, Highland Hines being out is huge. The Tigers only beat the Spartans by 6 in Spearfish, but only by 6 when they had them. The fact that this game is again in Spearfish and they're playing without their starting quarterback, you're throwing a sophomore out there who's inexperienced, and that's not a knock on his athletic ability. It's just that's quite a situation for him to be thrust into. So I like Spearfish as well. So just one different for us this week on the picks. But Jandy, I'm ready to get into some playoff football here. How about you?
We are ready, and we'll have you covered on Friday night with Thursday action and Friday action from around the Dakotas on Varsity Sports.
Looking forward to it. So make sure to bring it back here Friday night for that. Bring it back here next Wednesday night again for another episode of Varsity Sports.